I'm going to try to be on time, which may be an immense task because I think we're an hour behind schedule. Hello, beautiful people. Salut, bonne journée, buenas tardes.
Hello, how are you?
Trying to speak as many languages as possible. Right? As many as we can. I like to say I can say at least thank you in at least 100 languages, because I feel like in a city like Toronto, you have at least 100 opportunities a day to say thank you to someone. If you have your eyes up and your head up and you're willing to make those connections with people. Boom. So I warn you, I'm very passionate. I gesticulate a lot. I probably will move my head a lot, so hopefully you can stick with me. So I'm here to talk about youth organizing in Toronto, Canada, and definitely across this hemisphere. Diversity, which includes considerations and criticality around race, gender, sexuality, class, and the intersections of all of these things in amazing ways. And to talk about cyborg Canadians, among many other things, with a broad definition of what that could be. I definitely want to honor and recognize that we're on the territory of the Haudenosaunee people and the Mississaugas of the Credit River. And it's a blessing to be able to be here. I want to definitely recognize elders, and especially young people, and many, many, many communities across Canada that have allowed me to walk with them and work with them, and that is very much the reason that I'm standing here today to share my ideas and experiences. So real quick, a little bit about me, okay? I definitely identify as a cyborg in that I'm a hybrid person, okay? So I grew up in a French-speaking community called Pointe-Roche, which is definitely a mixed group of Acadiens, Franco-Ontariens, Métis, Mohawk, Mi'kmaq people in southwestern Ontario on the shores of Lake St. Clair. So really this terrain, the battlefields of the War of 1812, some of the first settlements of freed black peoples in Canada, the neutral territories of the Haudenosaunee, a lot of stuff happening in that place. I had the privilege, actually, of working in big industrial fields and factories with migrant workers. Yo empecé de aprender español porque yo quiero entender las historias de mis compañeros. I wanted to understand the stories of my fellow coworkers, and so I tried to learn Spanish and tried to pass with some Trini and Jamaican accents as best I could, and shared my learnings, or my language in French and in English. And in that process, learned how important it is to share our stories, and that we're stronger together when we share our stories, because as a poor French farmer, I was considered, low class, low wage working people. Of course you can work in a field for 10 hours for $4 an hour. Also, just my cultural experience of telling stories and singing in the fields when you're working, that plus definite inspiration from Motown, jazz, funk, soul, from Detroit Public Radio, inspired this will and want to be a part of social justice movements through art, using art to hold and tell and share people's stories. And I have always believed, and still believe to this day, that that is one of the most powerful ways to bring people together and to share the complexity of many truths. Canada as a nation and our story as a nation is many, many, many stories. We would need 200 years just to tell all the stories of the past 100 years. Really, true to say. So, brings me to my time in Canada, in Toronto. I told you, I'm a silly person. So when people ask me what I do, I say it really depends on the day. I'm an artist, a trickster, a storyteller, it does. Many hats. A singer, a songwriter, an educator, an activist, an iconoclast from time to time, and a one-person band. And that has been fundamental to my work with young people. So I have had the utmost pleasure of working with Native youth on reserves across Canada and in inner-city friendship centers. I worked with Latino youth, Black, Brown, Southeast Asian, Filipino, like every youth community in the city of Toronto, making murals and videos and collaborating with different groups. And always talking about their experiences in the city of Toronto. And definitely at the root of that, what does it mean to be Canadian here? What does that mean? And also, especially, working with LGBT youth. And of course, LGBT youth are in every community. They're in every racial, class bracket, every part of Canada, there are LGBT youth. And that has definitely been a primary part of my work, has been trying to create spaces where youth from different parts of the city, for example, can come together and talk about what does it mean to be Black and gay? What does it mean to be mixed race and transgendered? What does it mean to be from a lower class background and wanting to access school, and knowing that my gender and my sexuality will be one of the main reasons that I won't be able to get in or I won't get a good job, these kinds of things. And I've also really had the pleasure of working with organizations, agencies, community centers, and governments to talk about equity and inclusion and accessibility, and have really worked with some people who are so open-minded and so willing to challenge their own biases, their own assumptions, and to create more space to talk about that with their colleagues and contemporaries, and to open up their doors a little bit more. So it's not just about putting a triangle on the door to suggest everyone is welcome, gay people are welcome, everyone's welcome. But to go further and have conversations and create dialogues just like this, where we encourage as many people as possible to share their perspectives. In 2009, I co-founded the People Project, which is an organization / social enterprise with my colleague Kim Crosby. She's a brilliant woman, you should check her out. Great resources online. Intentionally to, one, create more programs for diverse LGBT youth so that we could try to combat some of the stereotypes that queer youth are only white people, or that there are no trans people in Canada, or that homophobia doesn't exist anymore. Or if you put a triangle on your door, everyone will feel welcome and included. And so we run a lot of programs with youth that is rooted in criticality, creativity, and caring, and I'll come back to that because I think that is innovative in and of itself. And also writing policy and all sorts of sexy things like that. And some things that I've learned in this process, and again, I say, like, my greatest teachers have been young people. That at the end of the day, nobody wants to be tolerated. People want to be accepted, and in fact, they want to be celebrated for their brilliance, for their beauty, for their creativity, for their ideas. They want to be celebrated. And I think that we do that, and I think we could do it even better. And that is definitely one thing that I want to plant a seed in the minds of people, okay? I've definitely heard and had amazing conversations with young people about what it means, the idea of multiculturalism. And often it starts with this concept that we're all the same. And so if we're all the same and we have the same needs, then we should be able to understand how to relate to each other. And I've found that the deeper we get into those conversations, the more we realize we're totally different, and that's amazing. And this difference is such an asset to this group of people, to this city, to our country, because it means when we have a problem, we have so many more perspectives and opinions to draw from, and not just one perspective. Yeah, we all agree that's the best idea. And so young people get that. I think they really get that. That has at least been my observation and experience. Another big thing I've learned from young people, that self-determination is so important. And participatory organizing that puts self-determination at the forefront. So that could look like creating spaces for young people to organize so that they're doing peer-to-peer education, or that they're actually leading the projects. So not an organization saying, we've got some money and we'll get some young people in and we'll have them wear t-shirts and they're gonna do 3 weeks of this program and then we'll take some pictures and then they'll go off and everyone will feel great. Rather than, hosting a big conversation with diverse young people from a geopolitical neighborhood, asking them what they would like to do if they had some resources, and asking them to think critically about that, asking hard questions, make sure there's art involved. Always make sure there's art involved in creativity. Invariably, amazing, brilliant ideas will come out of that. Again, I have seen this to be true. And I think this is particularly important for youth who experience marginalization. So queer and trans young people, youth of color, youth who are targeted by police violence, youth who are newcomers or perhaps do not have status in Canada. There are many of these youth, just in Toronto alone, and the need for them to be supported to come to the table is that much greater, because again, we think we put a triangle on the door and everyone feels like they're welcome. And that's not the case at all. On the contrary, we do have to go out and have conversations. We need to have conversations with our communities, with parents, with teachers, with the folks that are running the community centers about accessibility and inclusion, and talking about it openly because we're excited about it, not because it's a chore or because it's written in policy, but because we celebrate the idea that we want everyone to feel included and invited and welcomed into this space, no matter who you are, because we celebrate difference and diversity. And again, I think young people can talk about that critically in beautiful ways, and they can make potent, powerful art about it. I think young people in Canada today, and especially in Toronto, beg us to deconstruct, rethink our definitions of being a Canadian citizen. I think I hear young people asking questions. So youth living in shelters or in the streets. So I also, one of many hats, I work with Sketch, which is a not-for-profit organization that runs, I know, they're amazing. Check them out. They run arts programs for homeless and street-involved young people with a broad definition, so involved in street economies, et cetera, at risk of being engaged in gang or street violence. And they run art programs with them. And they've been doing that for 16 years, and they have had immense influence, and so much change has happened in that space. And we ask all the time, though, what does it mean to you to be a Canadian citizen if you don't have shelter, if you're not able to access shelter, if you're not able to access meaningful employment, and you've been trying, and you've been working hard at it? What does that mean to you? What does it mean to you to be a Canadian citizenship as an LGBT youth who's struggling through bullying and homophobia in rural communities where there are no resources? There's nobody putting up a triangle on the door. What does it mean if you're a Canadian, or to be a Canadian citizen for a black or brown youth growing up in the jungle, or Jane and Finch in Toronto, and you're negotiating serious poverty, generational trauma, negotiating police violence and gang targeting, high school dropout rates that are crazy high, and trying to hold multiple languages, identities, cultures, possibly not having status, and not wanting to assimilate, wanting to hold all of these things? What does it mean to be a Canadian citizen? What does it mean to be a Canadian citizen for Native youth in light of our complex history, broken treaties, residential schools, displacement, apologies, and omnibus bills? But this is your lands. What does it mean? I think, most importantly, social change and innovation must be rooted and balanced in programs, dialogues, like convergences that bring criticality, so asking hard questions, asking important questions, that bring creativity. So invariably, let's have a hard conversation, and then let's write about it, or let's make music about it, as Paul Schaefer would suggest. And also rooted in care. We can't just have hard conversations that are critical and that are pointing out the things that are not working. We can't just make art that makes us feel good. We also have to talk about how important it is for us to heal through critical dialogue and through making art. How important it is for self-care and also community care. And that those things together, potent cocktail, I'm telling you. I've seen it. And so I think youth in Canada really understand this. They're doing it every day. They're initiating, building, and leading, I would argue, revolutionary initiatives that are grassroots, and it's all youth-led. I could give some amazing examples, okay? Alternative education in the city of Toronto. Organizations like Lost Lyrics, they use hip-hop, music, spoken word, poetry to teach reading and writing skills, and public speaking, and tons of other kinds of skills that are transferable in all sorts of kinds of employment. Schools Without Borders, Asian Arts Freedom School, For Youth Initiative, Gashanti Unity, working with Somali youth in Scarborough, the Native Youth Sexual Health Network. They actually are now working all across Canada talking about Native youth experiences, sexual health, gender and queer and sexual diversity, etc. Kapisanan, Filipino Youth Art Center, these are all initiatives that started up by young people, and they've been going and they've been sustaining for many, many years, which suggests it's not just a pop-up thing because there was some money after the Summer of the Gun, but these are young people with initiative, and I believe they will continue to be doing that organizing because they have young people from recent generations who are now taking over those organizations and running them, and that's a beautiful thing. And they're trying to provide spaces for young people to learn outside of, an institutional educational system that doesn't work for a lot of people, and using art and critical dialogue. And all of these organizations are showing immense improvements, changes, transformations, and empowerment with the young people they work with. Celebrating culture. It's a big part of it. Again, critically, creatively, and with care. Folks like Manifesto, Checo Tari will be here to talk about Manifesto and all of the amazing things they've been doing in terms of bringing people together every year to celebrate hip-hop culture in Toronto. 106 in York, Urban Arts, the NIA Center for Afro-Diasporic Learning in the Arts, all initiatives sprung up from young people. And it's all about celebrating diverse culture, critically, creatively, and with care.
Naty?
Yes. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to say thank you.
Should I wrap it up just comme ça?
Grazie. Gracias.
Wow.
Et merci beaucoup.
Salamat po. Can I guess I'll just leave it on that. I think
you have 20 seconds.
Okay, 20 seconds. I'll just continue to say, and I'll just continue to, this space is an example of criticality, creativity, and caring brought together. I think if we can continue to create spaces where we bring diverse young people at the forefront of those conversations, not just, what do you think about this idea, but what ideas do you want to bring to us? Magic will happen. Boom.
Bravo. Merci.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Merci beaucoup.